Let's start with the basics and understand better what exactly is going on. So let's say our collection has 4 requests and they are already organized in the collection in a specific order. So when you're automatically executing this request by using the collection runner or with Newman or by using the Postman monitors, what Postman would do is start with the first request and then go to the second request and execute that one. And after that, it will go to the third request and execute that as well. And after that, it will go to the fourth request. And because after the fourth request there's nothing else to do, Postman will just stop the collection run. Now let's imagine that we want to complicate things a bit, and actually this order in which the requests are run doesn't really fit our scenario. So let's imagine that we still start with the first request, but after the first request we decide that we actually want to go to the third request for whatever reason. And then in the third request we'll decide, well, let's go to the second request. And in the second request we'll just then decide, well, the fourth request is actually not relevant for this scenario, so we want to skip it altogether. And from the second request we'll just go to stop. So this scenario will go from request 1 to request 3, then to request 2, and then it will stop. From all the 4 requests available, we'll only execute 3, and this one will be in a specific order. So let me show you exactly how this is working. So this is the collection that has no workflows, and you will see here request 1 to 4. And when I'm automatically running this request with a raw collection runner, this will be executed one after another. So we'll have here request 1, request 2, request 3, and the fourth request. And after that, the execution will stop. Now you might be wondering, how exactly are we going to get this to work? To jump from one request to another, and even in the middle of the requests, to just stop the entire collection run. In order to override the default behavior of Postman, I'll show you how to use a built-in function called setNextRequest. This function has a very suggestive name, and when you provide a string parameter with the name of the next request you want to run, it will allow it to change the default behavior, and after the current request is completed, Postman will go to the request you indicated. So as a string, as a parameter for the setNextRequest, you just have to give the name of the request exactly as you have named that specific request. So for example, in my case, if I want to go from request 3 to request 2, or from request 1 to request 3, I only have to type in request 3. But if you have a more long and complicated name, you have to type in the exact name of that request here. Additionally, I mentioned that it's possible to interrupt the collection run, to just put it to a halt. And that is being done by setting null as a parameter to the setNextRequest function. And what this will do is to stop the execution after the current request has completed. So let's go to our previous request and see exactly how this will look like. We said we wanted to go from request 1 to request 3. So in the test tab, I simply put in postman.setNextRequest and then gave the next or the third request. Now let's go and check the third request to see exactly what's happening there. Now the third request will say, after this request is completed, go to the second request. And then finally the second request, it will just say, well, set the next request to null. So basically after you execute me, just stop. Now let's see if this actually works. As you can see here, the requests are still displayed in the normal order, so from 1 to 4. But now when I'm executing the request, I will see that it goes from request 1 to request 3, and then to request 2, exactly as instructed. Now let me show you something interesting. If I go again to request 2, what will happen if I just remove this line of code? The collection will go from request 1 to request 3. And in the request 3, it will be redirected then to request 2. But then, because request 2 has no additional instructions on what needs to happen next, Postman will continue its normal course. So basically, normally after request 2 in the list of requests is request 3, which means request 3 will be executed again, and then Postman will be again instructed to go to request 2. And this is what we call an endless loop. And this means that when I'm running this collection, because it's going all the time to request 3 and then to request 2 again, and then to request 3 and then to request 2 again, it will never end. There's no condition stopping this request to run. So this is why it's important in this specific scenario to just tell Postman to stop this collection run when a certain connection is established.